I introduced the first dog bowl on the show, a round table of Browns fans in the media. We'll get to a lot of fantasy football talk, get you ready for week 12 and my Betfred Sportsbook Sick Picks, all coming up right now on the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara, the sickest Cleveland Browns podcast.
Cut back by Chubb. He's to the 10. He's still running to the 5. He dips outside left. He's going in. Touchdown. What a run. Nick Chubb.
It's going to be sick.
There you go, everybody. Yes, I am Andy McNamara. You see the sun is shining on me. I think that's a good sign for the Browns. Okay, we've broken through the clouds. It's going to be good. It's an angelic sign coming down from up high. Like I said, fantasy football talk, lots of that coming up. We'll have our waiver wire, pick up some best value plays for DFS and get you ready for week 12. Hashtag Ask Andy coming up. So if you have your fantasy football questions, get them in on Twitter at AndyMC81, at Andy MC Sports on Instagram, and at SickPod Browns. You can leave it in the comment section too. Turn on notifications, click subscribe, all that fun stuff. All right. I got my dog bowl ready. Okay. I got my guys, got my dog pound, my in the dog bowl, and we're going to do our round table. Well, I'm bringing on first Michael Bohm from 93 The Fan in Cleveland. Also, content producer, does a great job, does some hosting as well, and also quite a musician there, Michael. I understand you're going to play us in a little bit with some Browns song. Get us ready.
Yeah, why not?
Let's go.
All right.
There we go. All right, let's bring in the other members while we have Michael play us in. Let's bring in Matt Florjancic, my guy, and Grant Gilliland from IDP Guys. Matt, former staff writer with the Browns, award-winning Cleveland sports writer, and Grant with IDP Guys out of Canton. I got a chance to meet Grant at the Big Fantasy Football Expo. We bonded over our love of bourbon, Grant.
Yes, we did.
And
yes, we did.
That was great. And Matt, I've known for God, how long, Matt? Decade now? Something like that? I don't know. About that?
I think it's been about 10 years.
Good Lord. Yes. And Michael does such a great job at the Fan in Cleveland as well. And as you can hear, just ripping those chords. And we'll tell where you can find some of his music a little bit later on. But gentlemen, I wanted to get us all together here because, you can have the talking heads and all that. And it's okay. You play the safe questions. Enough of that. This is a disaster. This is a disaster season. It's unacceptable. So I want to bring in guys, part of the media, but also passionate Browns fans. So we're going to run through a few situations and get ready. You boys ready?
Yep. Let's do this.
Let's go. Okay. I want to start. We're going to go some little hit by hit here. Number one, who is the most to blame for the current state of the Browns? You got to pick one. Who's to blame the most? Let's start in the bottom right corner with Grant. Grant, who do you got? I know you're fired up.
Yeah, you got to go with Stefanski here. He's the head guy. He's the head coach. It all starts with him, and then it works its way down. So I truly think he does not have enough accountability to hold against himself, and he does not hold the players accountable either for the mistakes that they have going on in the field.
It's true. Like that really, guys, that's what those big words I talked about on Tuesday's show. 2 A words, accountability and adjustments, both lacking. Matt Florjancic, Matty, who's most to blame?
I'll take it one step up the ladder. I'll say Andrew Berry for the exact same reasons. Accountability. Andrew has shown an inability to cut basically any one of his draft picks. I think he finally did part ways with one of his draft picks, and he's not hitting home runs all the time either. This isn't. It's an organization that has lacked accountability for as long as I can remember, and it continues to perpetuate itself under Andrew Berry's regime. It trickles down into the coaching staff because Kevin Stefanski's great at saying, hey, it's on me. That one's on me. Great. Well, then figure out a way to fix it. If you don't, then stop talking about it. And it goes down into the players as well. And you see a lot of talking about ancillary stuff from the players. And it's concerning as a fan because you're like, these guys are focused on the wrong things. And we continuously see it, and it starts at the top.
It really does. Michael from 923 The Fan in Cleveland. Most to blame. One guy. Who is it?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on Joe Woods because I think that's where I feel like has been the most inconsistency. It feels like that's the area where the most is out of control. Like there's been plenty of issues with Kevin Stefanski's offense, right? Trying to get too cute at the wrong times, getting inept for certain periods of time. With the defense, I think we've only seen one game really where they played up to their potential with that Cincinnati game. And then I don't know what happened before that or after, but they haven't been the same defense since. So I think it doesn't. And now we're starting to hear the players in commentary lash out a little bit, take subtle jabs. So I think that's deeply concerning and something might have to be done soon if they want to quiet that.
I'm totally with you. It's a sense where you're looking at it and nothing changes. Why? Why is there that lack to adjust? And you kind of know, guys, like, I don't know about you, but when I'm watching the game this year, I know that the game's over in the second quarter. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's it. Because there's going to be no change. There's going to be no change. And if Jacoby Brissett is at a 40-yard line either side of it, and it's 3rd and long, he's getting sacked. I don't blame Jacoby. He's getting sacked because of the bad play call. Okay, let's start with Matt Florjancic. One in-season change you could make. Not one you think would happen, because as it stands, it looks like nothing's going to change. But you, Matt, get the, you get the book, to use the wrestling term. They give you the book. Jimmy says, one in-season change. What would you do?
Make Kevin Stefanski give up play calling.
Yeah. Amen.
No question. It's just I know the propensity is for coaches to say, I got the job doing this, so I'm going to stick with it. But when it doesn't work, you have to change something. And I think giving Alex Van Pelt a try as a play caller, it certainly can't hurt. I think it's a long shot at best to say this team has any hope of making a postseason appearance. So what does it hurt you? If Alex goes out there and he does well over the final 7 games of the season, great. You've figured out a formula that might work for next year if you keep him on staff or if he wants to stay on staff. And if it doesn't, so what? It's not going to hurt you because you're already pretty much out of contention.
Right. And the one time Van Pelt did get to call, didn't the Browns win a playoff game?
Yeah, they did. They look pretty good doing it too.
If I'm not mistaken. Grant, one in-season change.
Yeah, I want to build on the Stefanski giving up play calling. He's a head coach. He needs to be delegating his jobs here. He should be sticking himself in where he is needed. If the defense is not doing well, he needs to walk up to Joe Woods. Hey, what can we do to make this better? Or if this case, if he gives up the play calling to AVP, he can still give his 2 cents in the play calling. He's the head coach. He needs to be the CEO of the entire team, essentially, on the field.
Yeah. Not that giant menu card of all you can eat where he's buried. He does not, great point, Grant. He doesn't go around to the team. He's acting like an offensive coordinator in a head coach role. Michael, one in-season change. What do you got?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you guys. I think that's also interesting because you already have a big change coming, right? At the quarterback position. You're going to be changing to a completely new quarterback, and there's a lot up in the air with that. And so I'm really tempted to say I think they might have to cut ties with Joe Woods. I think stability in the offense right now, when you have that looming change at the quarterback position, is going to be crucial. And I think Jimmy Haslam has to ponder whether Joe Woods has lost his defense, because we're hearing players that frustration. It's definitely, I think, geared towards the coaching staff and what's being done, the plays being called, not being in the right position to succeed, not being able to capitalize on their talents and put them in the best possible position. So I feel like the team is veering towards the need to potentially cut ties with Joe Woods.
Yeah, and if you have Myles Garrett with those cryptic messages, right? And then Denzel Ward also saying, well, look, last year we finished strong, and you have the same personnel. It's the 3rd year in this defense. It's very bizarre as to the why. And that's the question. That comes back to that A-word, adjustments and lack of it. All right, let's start with Matt Florjancic on this one. Is this Browns team fixable with the current coaches, front office, etc.? Let's say, for whatever reason, they finish well enough for Jimmy Haslam to say, all right, we'll do it again, with Deshaun Watson. I like what they see of Deshaun, whatever. As things stand, is this fixable?
I mean, it hasn't worked for 2 years essentially, so something has to change. I think you need to figure something out. I think change at the coordinator position is coming, both for defense and potentially special teams as well. And who knows, depending upon what the last 7 weeks of the season show, it might be a complete house cleaning of all coordinators, and then we start fresh all over again. But in its current incarnation, I don't see it working long term. It hasn't worked this year. It's not going to. It's likely not going to work going forward.
Yeah, I think unless there are actual conversations taken with, you have to change this, because we know they like to be all kumbaya collaboration. Well, being nice isn't working. It turns out being nice isn't working right now. Michael, can this team be fixed with how things stand? You mentioned Joe Woods, and I'm totally in agreement. Like, it's broken and the team doesn't respond to him. Can as is this, can this be salvaged?
I know that I was being very critical of Joe Woods. I will say that in a lot of ways, I like to consider myself relatively a realist with the Browns, but I also suffer from Browns optimism, where at the end of the day, I still in my heart believe that this can work out, right? And I still have hope, because especially with this regime, we've seen slightly more competence and slightly more flashes of potential than we have with any prior regime. And so this slight improvement is like, this is better than anything I've had in the past. It kind of feels like. And so I want to believe that it can work out. Now, that's also relative, because do I think it can be fixed this year? That I don't know. The quarterback change is just going to come in, and it'll throw a wrench in a lot of things. It'll change a lot of plans, and we have no idea what to expect. I don't think we can expect to fix it this year. But maybe Haslam will be more lenient with that in mind. If he continues to see those flashes, if he continues to see signs of growth, then I think it can be fixable in the longer term.
Well, that growth better start real soon. And Grant, we've seen, the analytics side is one thing, but we've also had football people in, and they've been, not so good. Mike Holmgren was terrible, and he's the ultimate football guy. Can this be fixed as this coaching staff, front office, etc., as is?
As is? No, I don't think so. I think we need to look at a new special teams coach. I think we need to look at a new defensive coordinator. And then I even think Andrew Berry is not the right guy to be putting this team together. We're still relying heavily on John Dorsey's draft picks. So in the future, I think we need to see maybe 3 changes, at least 2 of the 3 to be changed for us to fix this.
Well, and again, that accountability word, where Matt, you mentioned it earlier, 1 draft pick, Richard LeCounte, and he pretty much just had to totally bottom out to warrant that, like just gone to warrant that. Like Anthony Schwartz, guys, come on. What are we doing here? The guy can run fast. Okay. Can't catch the foot. This guy should have been cut long ago.
There's a reason Usain Bolt does not play professional football. He can run real fast, but you got to be able to do multiple things. You can't just be a one-trick pony. And Anthony Schwartz's hands are, to say they're suspect, it would be a compliment, I think.
Absolutely. Michael, expectations for Deshaun Watson when he joins this team. You mentioned him earlier. This is really with the Browns, not mathematically, but pretty much out of the playoff race. This is really that only glimmer of hope for Browns fans. What are the realistic expectations, knowing that this guy hasn't played a regular season game by the time he gets in there for 700 days, which is incredible to say?
Yeah, you can be the best at anything. I don't care what it is. You take 2 years off, you're going to be rusty coming back. And now, look, you can practice and all of that, but I think it's kind of similar to as a musician, right? My last show before COVID, and then taking 2 years off, and still, I'm practicing, I'm writing, I'm playing with bands in practice spaces and all of that for 2.5 years before going back on stage. I was not the same person on that stage again as I was the last time before COVID hit. And that was because being on that stage and like being on a field, and I'm not saying that it's like the same level, right, but it's just, there's a lot of reacclimation that needs to be done. You just can't simulate so much of it in practice. I think Deshaun can get back to that level. We know what he's capable of, but we need to be lenient with him this season, because obviously everything around him is starting to feel like a train wreck. We're going to have to bear with it a little bit and ride the storm out.
For sure. It's going to be, and I think really what we want to see, Grant, is growth. If he's rusty to start in the preseason, we saw Lots of rust. We saw it in person in Canton, right up on the big screen there at Centennial Plaza. That was, there was lots of rust. But I think if we can see that growth, and by the end of the year, like, okay, hitting this stride, now we can get excited for next year. What are your expectations for Deshaun Watson?
Honestly, just get him on the field. Let's knock this rust off. Let's get him ready for next year. The season's already a wash, like you said. We're not making the playoffs. So essentially, just get him on the field, get him used to game speed in the NFL. Like Michael said, there is no practice for game speed, especially at that level. And let's just get him ready for next year. That's all I can say.
That's it. And Matt, I think staying healthy, obviously. And I wonder too, because we know it doesn't take much for Kevin Stefanski to get pass happy. Well, you got Deshaun Watson, and at least when we see him in practice and when he last played, flick of the wrist, that ball's going 50 yards. I just wonder, like, Stefanski might dig his own grave with Deshaun Watson wanting to go too much and game plan away even more so than the run.
Yeah, let's hope he doesn't forget that he has really good running backs as an option when it comes to calling plays. I think it could have been far worse in terms of who he debuted against. Houston's not a good team at all, so I think that might help him kind of ease back into it, but they still have to play a bunch of division games over the last 6 weeks of the season, and he's going to face some tough defenses. So there's going to be a challenge to keep him healthy, and there's going to be, for Kevin Stefanski, the temptation to just let him air it out. And you can't really, in my opinion, you can't do that first game out. You have to ease him back in, mix in the run, get some short passes to get some confident passer, and then let it rip.
Let it rip.
Hey,
and
Andy,
then,
can I touch on this one more time?
Yeah, absolutely.
So look back to 2020. What was our strength? It was Nick Chubb, and then off running the ball, we would then play action, roll Baker out. We can be doing this again with an athletic quarterback like Deshaun Watson. We should not be just sitting him in the pocket or just running that ball into an 8-man pocket, a box on the defensive side. So I really think we need to get Deshaun out, use his athleticism, and just play ball from there.
And this is the thing, guys. It's about we're hoping this makes sense, but really what we're seeing is they have a game. Like, it just seems they have a game plan set out before the game, and that's what they're doing, no matter what. It's like, okay, this is it. You got whoever that guy is up, the analytics guy, telling them stuff. Maybe not. I don't know. And they're just going by it, and there's no adjustment to it. So hopefully that does work when Deshaun Watson, to follow your game plan there, Grant. All right, let's go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. Tom Brady back in town. Maybe the last time we ever see him in Cleveland. I remember that Patriots game back in 2010 when Mangini, I was there in the dog pound, boys. They got him. It was Colt McCoy. Remember Peyton Hillis? Got him the Madden covers. Phenomenal. What do we expect? And I'll start with Michael here. Out of the now 5-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady coming in, they're feeling he's 2-0 since the divorce. 2-0, Brady. Okay, that might be something. And here's what's extra scary to me, Michael. The Tampa Bay offense, their rushing game is ranked dead last. That to me screams start all the running backs in fantasy this week.
I really don't disagree with you. I mean, they had a rookie come in who's been taking all the snaps from Fournette, who he's shown promise. I mean, at his first game in, he had like 100 yards.
Rashad White.
So I really don't expect the Browns. I mean, they're just too lacking in that defensive tackle position. Like, they're getting gashed week in, week out. They're not always setting the edge. I think there's a lot of. I expect the Bucs. It feels like Tom almost flipped the switch this season. Yeah. Like, he is not the quarterback that he was at the start of the season. There was all this baggage and all of that, and now it feels like he's been able to push that aside. And I find it hard to imagine the Browns to stick with the Bucs just because of, just all the defensive issues. I don't expect to see them turn up like the Bengals game. However, I do expect to see some competitiveness coming from Jacoby Brissett in this offense. I think that we have seen he can move the ball down the field pretty effectively, more often than not. Now, they have these periods of where they can't, And it's really frustrating, and I feel like that kind of comes back to play calling. But we know they have the talent and the capability to move the ball down the field and keep up offensively with Tom Brady. That being said, I don't expect the defense to, so I'm going to take the Bucs 34-24.
34-24 says Michael. Okay, Matt, we also know with this Buccaneers defense, which is also, here's the problem, Browns luck. Of course, people start getting healthy. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin getting healthy, Julio Jones, the running backs we talked about. But on the defensive side, that big daddy Vita Vea, who looks like Samoa Joe, right in that middle, that defense, man, they collapse that pocket. And we know when Jacoby's rushed, he panics and it doesn't go well. What's your prediction Sunday in Cleveland versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
31-17 Bucks. I think the Browns can keep pace for a little bit, but I think they're going to be playing catch up, and that's going to force them to go away from the run. Have to rely on Jacoby, and like you said, that plays right into Tampa's hands with their strong defensive front. They can collapse some pockets, and if that starts to happen, we're going to see some 3-and-outs and a lot of punts.
All right, Grant, last word goes to you, man.
Yeah, so I'm taking Tampa on this one too, 27-21. I just don't see our defense sticking with these guys. Our defensive tackles are only getting 4 sacks this season. If we went to the D line amongst all individual defensive linemen, they are 14th amongst defensive linemen. So we are not getting any pressure as a whole on the quarterback. And then I think our offense, first quarter scoring, we're 6th. Second quarter, we're 23rd. Third quarter, we're 19th. And then fourth quarter, we're 3rd in the NFL. It makes no sense. But
No.
I think we do get our 3 touchdowns. And then I don't believe Stefanski will take any points from field goals.
Gosh, you know what, guys? I'm gonna say maybe it's the last shred of optimism, just the last little wrinkle in me because I'm sick. I'm sick inside. Okay, here's what Stefanski at his media days sort of gave. I felt a bit of hints of maybe the ownership is getting frustrated a little bit. Some little nuggets dropping, not so necessarily just his generic stuff. And it sounded maybe a little bit ownership. So maybe there's that extra pressure. And damn it, I think that this is how it goes down. It's 23-21 Tampa Bay, and Cade by God York goes in and hits a 50-plus yarder. The dog pound goes bananas, and the Browns win because when their backs are up against the wall, sometimes under the Stefanski era, sometimes, now it's better if it's the Bengals who need to do it. It's better if it's not the Bengals. But sometimes they pull one out of their butt, and it doesn't make sense why. I don't think the rest of the season is going to go well, but I think for this one, they send Jacoby Brissett off. Cade York goes hero ball again, 24-23 Browns. Who's with me? Let's go.
There's something to be said about when you're playing against the GOAT, Tom Brady, maybe you rise to the occasion just a little bit more. Miles wants to get another notch on his belt against the GOAT. So, hey, it could happen just like that Mangini game where I was there, by the way, too, up in the 500s. But,
Nice.
that magic comes every now and again.
Woo. See, boys, isn't this great? We're always able to somewhat talk ourselves into it, right? And then kickoff happens.
We got to remember Tom Brady. Yeah, Tom Brady's back's against the wall here too. He's trying to make the playoffs.
Yep.
And the last time I saw his back against the wall was when he was coming back from a suspension for Deflategate in Cleveland, and he throws for like 400 yards.
Ooh.
So
valid point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Touché, sir. I don't like it, but it's true. Guys, listen, this was phenomenal on the Dog Bowl. You guys ripping around. First of all, tell each of you where people can find you, follow you, and what you're up to. Michael, let's start with you.
Yeah, you can follow me on all socials at Mr. Bombastic. That's MISTABOHM Bastic. And check me out on TikTok if you want to see some amazing guitar covers.
Boom. Like we saw earlier in the show. Matt, tell people where they can find you, buddy. You're putting out great Cleveland content, award-winning Cleveland content.
Yeah, you can hit me up on Twitter at Matt Florzancic or on Instagram at MattFlowSports.
There you go. And Grant, you're killing it with IDP guy stuff, man. And you're not free to share your opinion on social either.
Absolutely not. You can find me on Twitter at Grant_Gillen. And then you can also find my work at IDP Guys YouTube page. I am the content manager, and I also host the IDP Guys Start Sit show every Wednesday or every Sunday morning.
Excellent. That's some great fantasy football stuff there. Gentlemen, let's do this again real soon. Thank you so much. And, go Browns. Let's see what the heck happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Andy.
All right. There, Michael, Matt, and Grant on the Dog Bowl version of our round table. So into the Dog Bowl. Beautiful right there. We'll get to some fantasy football talk. My sick picks from Betfred Sportsbook all coming up next on the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. Browns fans, okay? I think we solved all the problems with our Dog Bowl. That was awesome. But let's get to some fantasy football, right? Fantasy football week 12. We already had the great Thanksgiving Day slate, but tons of football still coming up on Sunday and Monday. Get your fantasy football questions in using hashtag AskAndy on Twitter at AndyMC81 and at SickPod Browns. My Betfred Sports Sick Picks. Some best bets coming up later on in the show as well. But I'm very excited to welcome on. He's a fantasy football expert, has his guide, has his show, but also runs the biggest and, in my humble opinion, best fantasy football expo in North America. It's Bob Lung. Bob, welcome. How are you?
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing well. Great to see you again. I was had the pleasure of being down in Canton, Ohio in August for the Fantasy Football Expo, and I know we got the 2023 one that will be here before we know it. But Bob, I personally had an absolute blast. The networking, but not just from the professional, fantasy football side, but the fan side. Like, it was a whole blend. It was amazing. Just tell people a little bit about that.
Well, it's the whole idea was to basically bring everybody to Canton, Ohio, which is I was born and raised, and been a Browns fan all my life, of course, and been in the fantasy football industry for about 20 years, and probably over the last 10 years when I started thinking more and more about I went to actually a fantasy football convention in Atlantic City when I was writing for Roto Experts, and it was huge. It was massive because they had the Atlantic City Convention Center, but the problem with it was too big, and so it was very expensive to go to. I think it was $100 a day, to get a booth. It was like $4,000. I mean, it was just because it was in Atlantic City, right?
Right.
They didn't get anywhere near the people that they wanted or needed to break even. And so it never happened again. And so, like I said, after kind of going to that, I was like, we could, watching the Hall of Fame weekend grow into what it's grown into, which is this, super extravaganza, lots of parties, lots of fun. And then some football mixed in with it. I go, what if I put something like this together for the fantasy football world? Yep. I mean, we start small. Everybody's included, whether you have a little site and you get 10 viewers or you have a massive site. We wanted everybody in the community to be a part of this and not get priced out. So as you know, a booth is like $375. It's very inexpensive to go. The whole weekend package is $75. You get to go to 2 parties, the Hall of Fame. It's just a lot of fun, and just it really came together quickly. So 3 years ago, actually 2019, we didn't do it in 2020. First year we did it, we sold 30 booths, all the people, but we only had 75 attendees. But it was a good start. Right. Well, this past year, as you know, we had 750. So yes. big difference in a very short period of time, but. A little bit is just dumb luck. COVID came and went, and people wanted to get out, and then they saw how much fun it was, and we keep adding to it and make it bigger and better every year. And so we're already looking at 2023 for August 11th through the 13th. You can't buy tickets yet, but you can go online to thefantasyfootballexpo.com. Put in your email address. You'll get notified as soon as tickets are open. But like I said, we're going bigger and better this year. It's going to be even more amazing than last year. And I know everybody's like, you can't outdo this. Yes, I can.
Yes.
I will.
Bob's calling it. Man, well, we got to play flag football in the Pro Football Hall of Fame field. That was amazing. Our team was eliminated extremely quickly, but I didn't pull any muscles. So that was great.
Yeah.
There you got a cornhole tournament, beautiful Centennial Plaza, just a great view of and getting to enjoy Canton. Found a cool speakeasy too for some bourbon. It was awesome. It was just
right. Yeah,
it was amazing.
Cool place.
Grant, who was on actually in the previous segment there, showed us. We're like, okay, it was very, very cool. So we'll make sure we get the link up And everyone get ready for the 2023 edition of the Fantasy Football Expo. But let's get to week 12 in the National Football League here, Bob. Okay, now let's talk about our Browns. Okay, this ain't great. Last week without Deshaun Watson. If we put our fandom sort of, I always try to just park it a little bit. And if we're looking just at fantasy football, boy, man, I want all the shares of Rachaad White I can get against this historically bad Browns run defense. What about you?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, especially now that there's talk that Fournette's got a hip issue. He may play, and if he does play, who knows? He could be out very quickly. So if you had Rachaad White, definitely get him in your lineup. But if, again, don't give up on Fournette. He's one of those guys that certainly he's going out there. He's definitely Tom Brady's favorite to have in the backfield. He's a better blocker, more experienced, good pass catcher. Definitely likes him more in the backfield than a rookie, but Brady's starting to warm up to the rookie as well. So I think both of them are good starts. However, be careful. 100% chance of rain Sunday in Cleveland. So it could be sloppy out there. So don't get overly excited. But there is a 100% chance of rain on Sunday coming through the area. So just watch.
Well, maybe, and my first thought when you think Tampa, you're like, cold weather's good. And then you remember it's Tom Brady. He's fine in the cold.
Yeah,
he's fine.
Tom Brady will be fine, but
Tom Brady's
running the football may be a little rough.
That's very true. Great point. But yeah, Rachaad White, nice play and pick up there. And also on the Bengals side, Sam Pirine is one of the better pickups this week with Joe Mixon in concussion. It's not official, but it looks heavily trending to him not playing. And we saw Pirine, 3 touchdowns last week? Yeah. And when he touches the ball, even against that tough Tennessee defense, I think he's got a real solid RB2 base for this week.
Yeah, definitely, especially in a PPR league. There's one thing Samaje Perine is good at is catching the football, which obviously you saw last week. All of his touchdowns were primarily by the pass. Tennessee is tough to run on, but they're not tough. They're not as difficult to pass on. So, yeah, is Perine going to have 3 touchdowns this week? Probably not, but I would definitely feel like, he's got a good chance of, definitely being RB2 numbers this week. That's for sure.
Yeah. Now let's look at a couple of fantasy football teams maybe to avoid. And if you got any players that really jump out to you, then hop in. But I'm thinking the Jets benching Zach Wilson. And really, like Zach Wilson, it's not like it's like some light him up. You got Mike White, who was the November AFC Player of the Week a year ago. People went crazy over him. Remember, It's like, relax, people. Okay, he came back down. So Mike White and the Jets. Justin Fields with that shoulder for the Bears is questionable. And then you go to the Texans, and Davis Mills is being replaced by Kyle Allen, and that might be some sort of weird upgrade with those teams, the Jets and Texans specifically, with those quarterback changes. Does that adjust any of your fantasy thinking, or is it the same thought no matter who with those teams is under center?
Well, like you said, sometimes these changes are for the better. Davis Mills has never been, he's pretty much underwhelmed since he's come into the league. Every once in a while, he'll have a decent game, but they're not going anywhere with this kid.
No.
And my thought is that, and I'm not 100% sure why they would try to do better when you're playing for the top pick, and you're going to get a choice of one of these top quarterbacks coming out of college, like a CJ Stroud out of Ohio State. My thought is, why are you trying to win? But I get it. And maybe they just feel like, well, it's at least get the offense a little bit more up. Allen has been better in the past. I think I forget if he was close to 500, if not better than 500 as a starter over the last few years in various teams. He's a good, solid quarterback. He doesn't make mistakes, but he doesn't, he's just good at what he does.
Yeah.
Is it enough to win? Maybe not. But a guy like Brandon Cooks could benefit, who has come back and hasn't really seen the ball that much. I mean, they're definitely focused on giving the ball as much as they can to Damian Price, which I get. But I think now teams are starting to stack the box against this kid, and they've been shutting him down. So they need to get this passing offense moving, and let's hope that can definitely get going in the right direction.
Yeah, and Justin Fields to track as well with that shoulder, because then Trevor Siemian would come in if that's the case. And sort of that's very similar. Siemian, Kyle Allen, that type where there can be competent quarterbacks. If you need them to go win you the game, probably not going to happen. But if you're good enough and the run works a little bit, they won't make necessarily too many mistakes. So
Yeah, but Trevor Simeon's not going to run for 180 yards in a football game either. So, that's where the downgrade comes. Now teams are really going to stack the box to stop Montgomery and company.
Yeah.
And Trevor Simeon has to beat him with the pass, which has not been a thing because basically Fields is taken off and run whenever the situation come around. Not going to happen with a guy like Simeon, but maybe the passing offense will be a little bit better this week versus for passing for the wide receivers and company and Nicole Kmet. Certainly could see some uptick.
Yeah, I liked what Cole Kmet was able to do the last couple games with Fields and finally emerge, especially like Bob, are there any tight end plays you like this week or generally going down the way? Because it just seems like if you catch, like if you get like 50 yards, you're like the best tight end.
You catch a touchdown.
You get a touchdown. You could be a tight end 1 and get like 8 fantasy points this year for real.
Well,
like it's crazy.
It's a crazy season when a guy like Jawan Johnson, who nobody's ever heard of, has caught 5 straight touchdowns in 5 straight games, and they're treating this guy like the second coming of Travis Kelce. It's like, dude, he's catching 2 to 3 catches a game, but just one of them has to be a touchdown, which is enough. And again, it earns a clutch game in my system for the consistency standpoint. But no, basically every week you play whoever's playing Arizona or Seattle. Whoever's playing those 2 teams, that's who you put in a tight end if you can get them, but doesn't always work out as well.
Well, Gerald Everett this week, and he's been sort of fluttering around with those either high single or low double-digit games. And, Arizona's given up the most fantasy points to tight ends. And as I look here, Everett is off the injury report. The groin issue appears to be fixed for now, whatever, and practice full. So that's a nice –
there's your guy, Gerald Everett. Get him in.
There's your guy. DFS, real good. And you know what? He's still available in about 30% of most leagues.
I'm surprised he isn't available more.
Might be fluttering around there. It's tough, boy. It's going to be an interesting week 12 for our Browns versus the Bucks. Anybody that you'd slot in who isn't the usual suspects? We know we're playing Nick Chubb. We know we're playing Amari Cooper.
That's an obvious. I mean, let's be honest. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been very consistent over the last 5 to 6 weeks. In fact, I think his consistency for the year has him at like 70%. That's up there with guys like Mike Evans and some of these better, bigger name stars that you wouldn't think of that are hanging out there. But he's been very consistent of late. He certainly seems to be a favorite of Jacoby Brissett, and it's hard to. You really can't pass on this kid. He's just been doing a good job of being consistent. He's not setting the world on fire. He's getting about 10 to 12 points a week, but that's what you need in this kind of thing. Yeah, he's 70%. He's tied with A.J. Brown, Amari Cooper, Cortland Sutton. I mean, some fairly big names there. And so he's one. And, of course, Njoku's starting to get back to health, and he was really clicking very well with Brissett. In a rain game like this, ball is a little slippery. You're not going to throw the ball as deep. This may be a bad game for Cooper, and DPJ could be a great game for Njoku. So definitely, again, you're looking for that tight end that can fill in, maybe get you something. Njoku may not be a bad if he's back 100% healthy, which I thought he was.
Right, and maybe Kareem Hunt if we're talking about the rain and the check down, right, in the flex. It's a little. The usage has been a little spotty as of late, but boy, if Stefanski can keep his head about him and say, hey, check down, run, check, then Kareem Hunt could make a lot of sense, especially for a touchdown.
Yeah, it's a shame. I really don't understand why they're not using him as much as they did in the past. I don't know if they're just down on him because he said he wanted to be traded, but I don't blame the guy. He wasn't going to go anywhere, but now he's going to go out. He'll leave with free agency, so we're going to lose him anyway. You should have traded him and get something out of him when he had some value.
Or at least, use him now.
Yeah, right. He's going to go somewhere and be a star. Yes. Don't be surprised if he goes back to Kansas City.
Ooh, that'd be interesting. Interesting. All right. Okay, Bob, tell us again. I know you're tight on time. Fantasy Football Expo 2023 is going to be here before we know it. Tickets not on sale yet, but you can keep up to date. The events keep coming. Also, just from the fan side, like the speaking, you have some of the best speakers and rooms and just every different type of fantasy you can think of. Giveaways, prizes, all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah, and I haven't announced yet, but I will soon. Is kind of a exclusive for you guys. So NBC Sports is already locked in as the title sponsor for 2023. And let's remember, Mr. Matthew Berry now is with NBC Sports. So there's Not a guarantee, but there's a very good chance he will be at the event in 2023. At least that's the talk we're having with NBC Sports, as long as his schedule allows. The problem is he goes to games and travels with for the football game. So maybe exhibition, we can talk him into skipping that first week. And he comes in for the Hall of Fame game because it's on NBC. Maybe we can get him to stay for an extra week and hang out in Canton with us. But so thefantasyfootballexpo.com, definitely go there. Put in your email address, click on 2023. You can put your email address if you're not already in the system, and we will notify you. We usually open up tickets around Super Bowl weekend, but we'll definitely let you know ahead of time. Follow that also on Twitter at the FF Expo. You can follow me on Twitter at Bob_Lung, and Big Guy Fantasy Sports is the website with all your consistency information for your fantasy football needs. And thanks again for having me, Andy, as always.
Oh, Bob, love it. And, just the people we got to meet there, yourself and just the whole crew, still keep in touch with them. Like it's just the amount of positivity is rare in this world where it's like everybody was trying to build everybody up.
Yeah.
Which you don't often feel. You're like, hey, what's this? Oh, people they're not.
Yeah, they definitely.
Thank you very much. We'll talk soon.
Yep. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, there he goes, Bob Lung of the Fantasy Football Expo. Little tech issue at the end there, but always great talking with Bob. And like you said, check out his stuff, the consistency side, very interesting. And for Donovan's Peoples-Jones, talking about with Bob, for Dynasty and Keeper Leagues, folks, I've been hammering this for 2 years. You get DPJ, consistent, elite level quarterback play. This guy's a star. This guy's got a future WR1 in fantasy all over him. And what that would eventually do for the Browns is be able to have DPJ as the 1, have Cooper slide to the 2, and then you really got something special. Maybe Bell comes around as well as the slot guy, consistent hands, Chubb, Jerome 4. Like the future, despite the doom and gloom we're talking about with this franchise, if you half manage it right and get out of your own way and have a competent in-game calling, this team future side on the offensive side of the ball is still stacked. You got places to fill, sure, but you still have a lot of potential. And that's what's really interesting. But anyway, thanks to Bob. You know what? Hey, some more fantasy football questions, folks. Let's get to hashtag Ask Andy. Let's go. All right, everybody. Now, let me just pull it up. You get your fantasy questions in at AndyMC81 at SickPod Browns. Make sure to use hashtag Ask Andy. There was a trade one that I saw just a few minutes ago that I wanted to get in. But this is an interesting week because you have no buys, no teams on buys, right? Which is pretty terrific. You don't have to worry about okay, who am I covering off? Who's doing what or whatever? And it's going pretty good. Okay, as I look for that trade when we got another one in. All right, and it's actually about DPJ. Andy, do I start Donovan's Peoples-Jones or Brandon Cooks this week in the flex? Hashtag Ask Andy. That coming in from Eric. Boy, we all love Brandon Cooks, right? We all love Brandon Cooks. But Brandon Cooks doesn't want to be in Houston, and Houston can't throw in the ball. He's got only a couple double-digit fantasy point games. It's not going to work for him. Now, does Kyle Allen come in, change that against the Miami Dolphins? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Kyle Allen's fine. I think you don't really have to change anything with your Houston Texans thought process of play Dameon Pierce, and that's it. Really, right? That's about all you need to do when it comes to them. And for the Dolphins, by the way, people, stack Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert. If you got to pick one, go Mostert. I just think they're going to get up early on this team, on the Texans, and then you're going to be able to just hand the ball off. And we saw them start to get into that against the Browns, right? We saw that development. And so that's where I think you can get some real value. So we got a couple questions in as well, asking about Wilson, Mostert, all that stuff. So Wilson, I would have ahead of Mostert, but I wouldn't be afraid to maybe stack him. And really, depending how much you want to do, boy, man, you could go Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua, Wilson. Like for DFS, do you want to do a quadruple Dolphin stack? You could, I think. I really think you could. Here's the question I was looking for. All right, from Paul on Twitter. Says, Andy, would you make this deal? Manager offering me Gus Edwards, Gabe Davis for either Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Debo, or Chase. Thinking of countering with Jeff Wilson instead of Edwards for Amon-Ra. So offer me Gus Edwards and Gabe Davis for one of Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Debo, or Chase. I would not. I would not make that deal. And then he says, thinking of countering Jeff Wilson instead of Edwards. Boy, man, that's tough. Do you want to give up Jamar Chase, who's likely not to play this week, but could be coming back the following week? That's a stud. Debo, even with CMC, Debo's a stud. Amon-Ra St. Brown, even with Jameson Williams coming in, I'm not writing him off. I wouldn't make that deal. Like, unless you are really desperate at running back. And if that's the case, then I guess maybe you go Debo. But I wouldn't want to do it. I'd maybe ask for more. Wilson and Gabe Davis for Debo. Like, if you are in a super pinch, that running back, like maybe. But boy, man, I don't like that. I don't really like that one. Okay, there you go. Any more fantasy football questions? Get them in. Hashtag Ask Andy on Twitter at AndyMC81, at SickPodBrowns, Instagram as well at AndyMCSports. Time to let's make some money, people. Let's get to some sick picks.
It's time for Sick Picks.
With Betfred Sportsbook. Yes, people. Betfred Sportsbook coming to Ohio January the 1st. Look at that right there, people. Okay, January 1st. Pre-register with Betfred Sportsbook to get exclusive pre-launch bonuses and entered for a chance at weekly prizes. Like in the other markets that Betfred Sportsbook is in, the prizes are awesome. Like we're talking, I'm not talking, you get a little squishy ball or something like that. You're getting tickets, autographs. Like there is some cool stuff coming, and I can't wait to see what they do for us Browns fans in Ohio, right? So, hey, if you're an Ohio State fan, Browns fan, Bengals fan, fine. Paul Brown founded both. I'll listen to you. But if you're in Ohio, no matter what fan base you are, pre-register right now using this code. BetFredSports.com/Ohio/Andy McNamara. Okay, so you can see on the ticker right there on the screen. BetFredSports.com/Ohio/Andy McNamara. We'll have the link directly in the show description as well. And we'll pop it up on Twitter. Make sure you're following Betfred Sports on social media. Great content. They're developing the network as well there. And you get all the odds, prop plays, everything you need right there. And those exclusive pre-launch bonuses and weekly prizes. BetFredSports.com/Ohio/Andy McNamara. Let me know if you do it. I'll give you a shout out on social media as well. Okay. Get to our Browns, baby. Right? Tampa Bay, 3.5-point favorites. Now, Bob mentioned the weather. A lot of rain coming. 100% chance of rain. Does that include wind off the lake? Is it ice rain? Is there going to be a little bit of snow mixed in? All possibilities. So if we're looking at this game, I think really when you look at it, lower scoring for the Browns, the better, right? It hopefully can prevent Tom Brady from getting into some sort of shootout. And those Tampa Bay Buccaneers and I just get the feeling, folks, they're getting ready to hit that stride. Terrible division they're in. You could probably win that division at 500, or I guess you can't with 17, but 9-8 type of thing, and go to the playoffs. And if you get Tom Brady in the playoffs, that's difficult. But my sick picks, I'm thinking, hey, if we got Tampa Bay to win by more than 3.5, so even 2 field goals, which I think is a real possibility. Again, I'm using my head here. I don't want it to happen. My predictions that I made with the guys in the dog bowl, I want to be true. But if I'm playing out of my pocketbook, I think you look at the numbers. Browns to cover 3.5, -120. Tampa Bay to win by more, +100 on the Betfred Sportsbook. That's pretty good. I would take that +100 for Tampa Bay to win. Browns to win outright. If you're like, Andy, damn it, I'm going with the Browns. Forget that point spread stuff. You get a pretty good line. +150 for the Browns to win outright. Okay. And over under 42, both is even at -110. 40, but you know what? That seems just about right. I'd probably stay clear of that one. Another game I like, Miami Dolphins versus the Texans. 14-point favorites for the Dolphins in Miami. They're going to be just fine. Miami wins that. I would take the 14. The double digits I usually don't like, but take Miami 14. Don't do the money line, minus 885. And I would take I would take the under on the 47 because I don't think that the Texans are going to be able to score that much. I think the Dolphins are going to be just fine scoring. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jeff Wilson, Mostert, Tua, Gesicki. Good Lord. And quick for a prop play as well for the Browns game. Look closer to game time. Whatever the rushing yards are for Rachaad White, take the over. I think Rachaad White has a day. I want to be wrong, but I think he has a day because the Browns let up huge rushing chunks and can't stop the run. Until they prove they can, why wouldn't you do that route? Especially take some pressure off of Tom Brady on a cold, wet day on Lake Erie, shores of Lake Erie. Yeah, do that. Bengals at Titans, another pick I like for this one. You got Tennessee plus 125 to win at home. This is going to be close, and the line's just 2.5. Bengals 2.5 point favorites, but I think the Titans are in that mode where Tannehill's playing well. That's another fantasy pick, by the way, for you. If you can stream Ryan Tannehill, guy's got you 19, 20 fantasy points consecutive weeks. Okay, and you look at the prop places. Looks like his passing yards is around the 220 mark. I think I take the over in that, and what's probably a 4 shootout with Cincinnati. So plus 125 for the Titans to win outright. I dig that one. We talked earlier in the week about the Bears and the Jets. That line is it's gone plus 220 for the Bears to win over the Jets. I don't get that. Even if Justin Fields doesn't play, you have Trevor Siemian. Am I scared of Mike White? Is there something I'm missing with that game? I said it on the early bird picks, and I'll say it again. If you didn't put the Bears to win outright plus 220, come on, man. Yeah, I'll take that. No problem. And then the Commanders to win by our 4-point favorites, minus 110. I think you get the Commanders to win there. Get the Commanders to win outright on that. You know what? Don't do the money line, minus 215, but take them to win by more than 4, minus 110. That's pretty good. Let's do that. All right, people, there you go. Make sure, okay? Register. Let me know if you do it. BetFredSports.com/Ohio/Andy McNamara. Pre-register for those bonuses when sports betting online comes to Ohio January 1st. Cannot wait. Weekly prizes, everything, just for getting ready to register. And then when January 1st hits, I'll have a whole bunch of more fun deals and contests and options for you as well. But get ready for it. Do it. Let me know if you do it. On Twitter at AndyMC81, at SickPodBrowns, and on Instagram at AndyMCSports. Thank you to our Dog Bowl contingent of media and Browns fans. That felt good, right? I think we just got the Browns fans in the media out there. I want to hear from you guys. What's your score prediction? Leave it in the comment section on social media. Score prediction. And who's the one person you would change? The one person you would change out, fire, remove, delete from the Browns organization that you feel would make the biggest change. And it can't be Jimmy Haslam. Can't be the ownership because they're not going. Anybody else? Let me know your score prediction. Let me know who you would replace. Comment section, social media. All right, that'll do it, people. Go Browns! You've been watching the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.